Hey, everybody, welcome. Welcome to the Team Phenomenal Hope Support Group meeting. I truly so glad to see everybody. I have to tell you ahead of time, this meeting is being recorded because Team Phenomenal Hope has a YouTube channel, which we'll give you more information about. And you'll see information in the chat where you could always go and see these support group meetings and look it up. And if you forgot something or you need some more information, it's right there. So welcome, and we're going to get a few housekeeping things out the way first. I'm going to quickly tell you about the Team Phenomenal Hope's unmet needs, and the unmet need program is open on the first business day of each month. And it is, if as a patient, if you have a need that's not medicine, you can't get medicine with it. But if you have a need, say that something came up, say your car broke, say your air conditioner broke, say you don't have boots and wintertime is coming, you can apply for the unmet needs program. It's not a thing where you need a credit check or this, that, and the other. The fact that you're a patient with a need automatically qualifies you to be, to apply. And the only thing you need is go online, go to Team Phenomenal Hope's website, and you go online for under unmet needs, and you will see unmet needs, and it's very quick. Your information, your address, your phone number, your email, your doctor's information, where you get your whatever medicine you get, where you get it from. I personally don't have medicine for PH because mine is secondary to left heart failure, but I do get my heart medicine from a pharmacy, so I use that. I would use that, and you just go on and you just have to have a PayPal account because the money is dispersed through PayPal, so that is very important. So I encourage you to go for that. And also, we have a program called Let Me Be Your Lungs. And Let Me Be Your Lungs is when, say, someone who bikes, who hikes, who does triathlons, marathons, anything like that. If they do it and they can go under the Team Phenomenal Hope website, Let Me Be Your Lungs, and all the information is there. And Team Phenomenal Hope will set them up with a Facebook, and they can get donations because whatever activity they're in, they're symbolically being your lungs. All the money that is collected goes directly into the unmet needs fund. It's not used for anything else but unmet needs, which is why I really encourage you to apply for the unmet needs. Also, just so that if our next meeting is going to be in January, we don't have a date yet, but we'll let you know. And if you are in the New York area, Monday on the 15th, the Mount Sinai Pulmonary Hypertension Support Group meeting is going to have their meeting at 5 o'clock. And it's the last meeting of the year for them. If you're interested in that meeting, you can contact Rachel Potter. She is the meeting facilitator. And you can contact her at her email, which is rachel.potter, RACHEL.Potter, POTTER, at M like in Michael, S like in Sam, S like in Sam, M like in Michael, .edu, and that's rachel.potter at mssm.edu, and email her so that you can get on the list and you can find out when the next meeting will be or attend the meeting that's on Monday. If you're in Brooklyn, Friday, November 19th at 2 p.m., New York Presbyterian Methodist Hospital is having their meeting, and it will be at, like I said, at 2 o'clock. And the facilitator for that meeting is Dr. Ruth Minking, and the nurse practitioner, who is Pam Hardigay. And you can get Pam at PAH, like Papa Alpha Hotel, 9057 at N like in New, Y like in York, P like in Presbyterian.org. Okay, and in the chat, you will find how to get to the Team Phenomenal Hope YouTube page, and you can go onto that and look at the videos that we have. We have a lot of good videos, so look at that. And we'd like to thank our sponsor for their support, which is Janssen, CVS Specialty, Bayer, United Therapeutics, Acceleron, and Alteran. Okay, so those are the housekeeping announcements right there. Now on to Miss Julia Feitner. I'm not going to do too much of an introduction because Julia is more than qualified to give her own. But I will say that Julia is a PAH patient. She has Remodulin. She has traveled all around the world and the United States on Remodulin with her husband and 2 children. She has an amazing amount of information. I encourage you to save up questions for the questions and answers, or better yet, Julia is going to tell you how she wants it done. But do not hesitate to ask questions, because trust, bet, and believe I'm going to ask. So without further ado, Miss Julia Feitner.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It's so nice to be with you here today. Like Lenise said, I'm a PHer. A little bit about my story. I was diagnosed in 2008. I was 28 at the time. I had PH, though, based on symptoms for 4 years already. By the time I was diagnosed, 24 hours later, I was actually on a vent. I was that sick. It took me that long to get diagnosed. So I look healthy. I feel relatively healthy, at least today. The sun's shining out there. But my PH journey the last 13 years has been really difficult and really tiring, as you all, for other PHers, totally understand. When I was first diagnosed in a hospital bed on a face mask of oxygen, struggling to breathe, I turned to my husband and I'm like, oh, there goes our dream of Italy. I am so sorry, because I was so sick. At that point, I literally couldn't walk 10 feet on oxygen without thinking I was going to pass out. But we have found a way to make it work with PH. Whether I am sicker or healthier, we found a way to make it work. And so that is something I'm going to be talking about today, how to travel with PH. But before I do, this is a support group meeting, and I see lots of friendly faces here. I would love to hear a little bit about you guys and your story. Maybe you guys could share your name and how long you've had PH and what meds you're on. And then at least give a baseline so we can get to know each other a little bit before heading in. So if it's all right with you, I will head down the list that I have people in order that my screen is showing. And then you can just unmute yourself and introduce yourself and tell us all about you. So the first person on my list is Elise Zwicky. Forgive me if I butcher names.
Nope, you actually got that right. I'm Elise. I live in Illinois, and I was actually diagnosed 21 years ago when I was 38, and I'm a calcium channel blocker responder. So I have been on calcium channel blockers for the 21 years, and I'm quite stable. So doing well.
Yay for stabilis. You've been in this longer than I have. Yay, you. That's awesome. You are a PH champion. Thank you, Elise. All right, next up, I have Betsy.
Hi, I'm Betsy Nicholas. I live in Northern Virginia. I feel like a baby. I've only been sick for 11 and a half years. But I've been on Remodulin from the beginning. I had a little bit stranger journey because I was barely sick for 6 months before I was completely and appropriately diagnosed, which was, pretty amazing compared to most of the stories. So I'm on triple therapy now, Remodulin, Opsumit, and Tadalafil. And I'm looking forward to, I do travel quite a bit, so I'm curious to see what are the things you have, particularly traveling with Remodulin.
Awesome. It's nice to meet you, Miss Betsy.
Thank you.
All right, next up, I have Doreen. Doreen, I can't hear you. I believe you might still be muted.
Sorry.
There you go. Thank you.
I have PH and COPD, and I was diagnosed in January of 2020. And let's see, the medicine I'm on, I'm only on Lasix because mine is secondary to heart failure. And we traveled a good deal before, and I had a lot of problems thinking about doing it once I got sick. So I'm eager to hear what you have to say.
Thank you for joining us today. It's nice to meet you, Miss Doreen.
Thank you. You too.
All right, next up, I have Sue. Sue, would you mind unmuting yourself and introducing yourself to the group?
Lost the screen. Hold on.
There you are. We hear you now.
Okay. I was diagnosed in 2006. I am currently on, and I live in Illinois. I moved back here from Colorado to take care of my 96-year-old mother. And actually was a good thing because the altitude difference has definitely had a positive impact. I am on Letairis and Sildenafil. I have tried a number of other medications, but I've had some allergic reactions to some of them. So right now that's the two that I'm on. And I just came back from a trip to Branson. I also signed up for this because I'm very interested because I am no longer allowed to fly at this point. The doctors will not sign off on me flying. So I can go any place that my car will take me. And I bought a new car when I fully retired so I could take my scooter with me if I needed to. Get a car that would handle the weight of the trailer and the scooter. So, and I still like to travel, but I also do find I'm very tired when I come back, no matter how good the trip is.
Yeah, you need a vacation from the vacation.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for introducing yourself. All right, next up on my little icon here is Polly NYC.
Hi, I'm Polly, and I am in New York City. I was diagnosed with BOOP about 15 years ago, which I think they're calling BOS these days. I'm not sure. ILD was diagnosed about 4 or 5 years ago. And then PAH, I think, was officially maybe 3 or 4 years ago. But I've been asking for oxygen for like at least a year before they finally gave it to me 3 or 4 years ago. So I worked until May, this past May, the year before May, in 2020. And then I lost my job. I was taking my oxygen with me to work. I was using my scooter to get around, and they permitted me to work 2 or 3 days a week in the office, and the rest of the time I would work from home. So it was exhausting for sure. And then I ended up in ICU a year ago in October for 3 weeks. And I've been kind of recovering from that since. They're now trying to really push me to do a lung transplant. In consideration for that, I've met with the transplant doctor twice, like 6 months apart. And they still want me to go ahead and do the testing to get on the list, which I think I'm going to put off until maybe February or March, because I don't really want to be running for a transplant in 3 feet of snow and stuff like that can happen. I also don't feel great with everything going on with COVID because everybody is so overworked right now. I mean, I was in ICU for those 3 weeks in the middle of COVID. And my husband was running around to come see me in the ICU every day. He stayed with me from 2 o'clock till 7 o'clock, which were the visiting hours. And, that almost killed him. So between the situation right now in the hospitals and stuff, if I'm just like crossing my fingers that I can wait till February or March and then start transitioning into the idea of seeing if I can qualify for a lung transplant. I basically feel like I'm pretty much like, I see you guys with PAH going on for years and years and years. And I think like I can do that, but they say it's not wise for me to do that because I'm like one infection away from disaster. Don't want to get dramatic, but that's the way they're really presenting it to me. And when 4 or 5 doctors tell me that, I'm kind of like, hey, I have to give in, you know. So I'm trying to be realistic, and I'm trying to really study and hear and listen and talk to people who have either gone through the process or are going through the process. So I really am a big fan of support groups. So I'm really, really glad to be here with you guys. But you guys with all these double digits with PAH, and you know, you don't have oxygen. It's like, what are you doing that's so magical? Oh, I forgot to mention, I'm on Remodulin, sub-Q, Up Summit, and I take a leak. So those are my meds, and they've tapped me out I'm at the peak now. They don't think that there's anything else they can do for me, which is always a scary thing to hear. You're doing everything you can do. We're doing everything we can do. Yay us. And I'm like, this is not yay. I'm not happy. You know, my husband does most of my heavy lifting. He's not a good cook, but we work together. And, you know, we still crank out the good meals. But it's tough. This is, you know, I'm not going to be sugarcoating it. It's kind of like I'm sick of this. I'm kind of ready to be done with the oxygen tanks.
Yeah.
But there's no guarantee that that's actually going to happen. So
Having chronic illness is not for the faint of heart, is it?
true, Julia. Thank you for encapsulating that so well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you, Miss Polly. I wish you all the best as you continue this journey. All right. Next up on my thing here is Jacqueline. I have Jacqueline's iPhone. If you wouldn't mind, Jacqueline, unmuting and introducing yourself to us. Let's see. I can't do it, but I can ask you. Let's see if that will help.
Okay.
There you are.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. Hi, my name is Jacqueline Bruce, and I have PAH. I'm based in New York City, Brooklyn, New York, and I have been diagnosed with this disease since 2016. I presently am on oxygen, and I have a host of medications. The primary ones being Adempas, Latiris, and bumetanide. So I'm constantly in the bathroom all day, urinating forever and ever and ever. And I was recently diagnosed with COVID in December.
Oh my, bless your heart.
However, I made it through, and but it's been difficult because I haven't been managing my breathing as I should be. It's difficult. My energy is drained. I feel very tired and somewhat overwhelmed by this disease. But I'm trying to make it through day by day, and I take one day at a time.
That's all any of us can do, isn't it?
Yes.
I totally feel your pain. You talk about being in the bathroom all the time.
Yes.
My family has switched to the soft toilet paper because after enough bathroom trips, you need the soft stuff.
Yes.
So it's a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you as well.
All right. Next up here, Carmen, would you mind unmuting and introducing yourself? Oh, can't hear you, Carmen.
I'm
There
sorry.
we are.
Okay. Like, hi, everybody. Nice to meet you and to be there. I'm Carmen Lozara. I'm from Puerto Rico. But like Julia, I was diagnosed on 2008. So we are, yes.
We're
I
twins.
was very like surprised but happy that somebody that is the same year as me. I was prepared here. Because in Puerto Rico don't have any special doctor that treat PH and don't have access to the PH medication. So right here, and I am with my doctor for 13 years. I am doing well. I was on many medication over the time. Right now, recently on June, I started to use the Line. So that is the reason that I'm very interested in that topic, travel with PH, because I continuously, frequently, I went to Puerto Rico. So now I thinking about that. I need to be very careful because remodeling is so different. And knowing and be conscious that there is no treatment, it's not specialized doctor, it's not hospital. So I think too much if something happens because everything occurs emergency, but I can do it. Maybe I don't have time to get back to New York because maybe I need to find an emergency ticket in the airplane. And we have to be for hours without the medication, no more. So that is nice to meet you. So that is my story.
It's so nice to meet you, Carmen. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right, Marcel. Marcel, would you mind unmuting and introducing yourself?
Hello, sorry about that. I take so long.
That's
I
fine.
had to call my grandson to show me how to unmute. Hello, good afternoon, each and everyone. Love you all dearly. Happy to see all faces. Well, I was diagnosed with PH in 2013. And I must say I had some down times and some up times, but I'm thankful to God I'm in the land of the living. And I am on Optima. No, not Optima, on Asame. And I'm on Tyvesa. And I'm doing pretty good. I went and see Dr. Ming King last month and she told me I'm looking good, but I still got the little winded at times, a little short of breath at times. But besides that, I'm doing pretty okay. And I'm thankful for that.
Wonderful. Well, at least you're on an upswing at the moment. Better
Yes,
than a
please.
downswing. We always prefer those.
Yes.
Thank you for introducing yourself. All
Thank
right,
you so much.
Marianne, would you mind unmuting yourself and introducing yourself? Let's see, are you still on? Marianne's tablet, S6 Lite. Are you still with us? All right, well, in the meantime, how about there's someone who's with us as a guest on the phone, and so I can't see your name.
It
Would
could
you-
be me. It could be me. My name is Denise Robinson. I couldn't get in the Zoom, so I came in on phone.
Awesome.
I've been diagnosed with PH since 2008. Also, I have COPD. I have heart failure. Also, what helped me is I lost 93 pounds within the last year.
Wow.
So that helped me tremendously because I couldn't walk a half a block at all. I was walking with a walker with oxygen. I had to stop. I was out of breath. I had to sit down. Oh, I was just a mess.
That is a
So-
feat, my dear. It's hard to lose weight when you can't breathe.
Yes. With the help of my doctors, with Dr. Minkin, Dr. Kaya Skaya, with my diabetic doctor, because I'm also a diabetic, with all them, they helped me tremendously losing weight. And because with the weight loss, it helped my breathing tremendously. And I'm doing a lot better. And thank God of that. I'm doing a lot better. So now I can walk a little bit more. Not a whole lot, but I can do like 3 or 4 blocks. I
Well, that's
mean,
a
I have to
tremendous
stop and
improvement.
rest, but that's a lot for me. It's certainly a lot. So I'm
It
doing
is.
a lot better.
Well, thank you for joining us today, Miss Denise.
Thank you.
All right, Lanice, how about you, my dear?
Hi, I was diagnosed in 2012. I have pulmonary hypertension secondary to left heart failure. I was on oxygen for 6 years. I had a pacemaker put in, but I had to be awake to have the whole thing done because of the pH, which was not a pleasant thing at all, but that's okay. I've got the pacemaker. And I was on oxygen, not because of low oxygen saturation, but because of heart failure. So once I got the pacemaker, it keeps my heart at an even beat. I feel really, really good. Right now, it's a great thing. You know, I have other things going on. I came through liver cancer 2 years ago, and I have other issues with my pancreas, this, that, and the other. But I've learned that on the days when I can't, I don't push it. On the days when I can, I do it. And I think that that is the best way for me. I think we all have to find our own way, and that is my way. And I'm so glad to see all of you.
Awesome. Thank you for setting this up, Lanice. All right, we can try Marianne one last time. I think that's the last person on my list. Marianne, are you there? Are you able to unmute? If not, no worries. I just wanted to give you a chance. All right. Well, now that we all have an idea of where we are and where we came from, let's talk about traveling with PH. So I am going to share my screen. Let me pull up the right one here. There we are. I am younger than most of you, I believe, but I still occasionally work with technology. There it is. There's the right.
Hi,
All right.
I'm sorry, it's Marianne. I finally got on.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
I couldn't get the unmute and I couldn't get my video, but I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to say I'm here.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Miss Marianne.
All right, well, I have scleroderma and I was diagnosed in 97. and have pulmonary fibrosis. And I was doing, fairly okay for all these years. And then last year I developed hypertension to go with it. So I'm on the Tyvaso as well, and a bunch of other things, Cellcept, for the scleroderma, and a whole bunch of other drugs. I'm getting, now it looks like I have developed hypertension besides the PAH. So just dealing with all these fun things.
You just have the Skittles assortment, don't you?
Exactly, yeah, but
Little
we
bit
do
of
the best we
everything.
can. I'm an optimist, so I'm hoping for the best.
Well, at 98, I think that might put you at the oldest PHer here.
Yeah,
I think you beat Elise by a couple years.
well, I just
Sorry,
developed
97 you said.
the pH, so it's new to my scleroderma. The 98 was when I developed my scleroderma.
Okay, well,
So
I'm
really,
glad
it's
you're
only
with
been,
us.
yeah, a couple of years for that.
Oh.
Thank you. Nice to see
Absolutely.
everybody.
Excuse me, can I just interrupt 1 minute? Marianne, where are you from?
I'm from Texas.
Thank you.
Do I not sound like from Texas? I'm originally from New York.
Accents are so fun.
Everybody says, you don't sound like you're from Texas. But I've been here for many, many years.
Awesome. All right, so let's spend the next little bit that we've gotten to know each other talking about traveling with PH. This is a presentation that I gave to a town hall that Team PH gave. They do this once a year, usually in the summer, I believe it is, where patients can get on and medical personnel can get on, and it's a day of education. It can go deep, it can go, some of the topics are deeper, some of the topics like this are more practical. And every time they also announce the new recipient of that year's research award. So this is a presentation I gave there, but since we are all PHers here, I can give it slightly differently because y'all have lived with this, right? You understand it from a different perspective.
Right.
So traveling with PH. This is a picture I took in Italy when I was accompanying my husband on a business trip. I commented at the beginning that in the hospital bed, and I was first diagnosed 13 years ago, I apologized to him that I've ruined our hope of making it to Italy one day. But by God's grace, I eventually made it there a couple years ago. Traveling is possible. It just takes creativity, we'll call it. All right. So prior to traveling, to make it work the best, it helps if you do research. You can do as much or as little. It will depend on where you're wanting to travel to, if you've been there before, what connections you have there, and probably even your personality, right? Some people are just spur of their pants kind of people. I happen to be a planner. And so for me to find a way to travel with PH, especially when I was sicker, it took more thinking ahead of time to make it work. Some of the things to plan is you should research your destination and the route you're going to take. Ms. Sue commented earlier that she learned that the lower altitude after she moved made it easier for her to breathe. That's probably true for all of us. And so if we're doing road trips, especially, it's important to research where you're going, their altitude, and the route you're going to take to get there. Because if I'm going from here to California and climbing over the Rockies, that might make a difference in my breathing. And so those are important things to plan. You also need to plan ahead of time oxygen needs and medical supplies. So in the photo there, you see that was me after 36 hours after I was diagnosed. That was our second son, Harrison. He had just been born by emergency C-section, and I was on a vent. At this point, I don't need oxygen often during the day, but I still sleep on 10 liters of oxygen. or I wake up and violently pass out. The kind that's ugly and you never want anyone to have to clean up your mess kind of pass out. And so even for me, planning oxygen and medical supplies is still important. Other things to plan are what hotels you'll be at. Some are easier or harder for PHers. If you're going to take a plane or a train or, I don't know, rent an RV or something, those accommodations need to be planned. Something else that I found is helpful is the importance of coordinating with your PH doctors before a trip. There are things that they can do to make your trip easier or even possible, or some ideas they might be able to provide you some resources. It's important to take care of yourself along the way. We talked earlier about how sometimes you come back and you need a vacation from the vacation, especially with chronic illness, because just day to day is difficult, especially with bad weather or if we're extra swollen that day. But vacation, even though it's fun, it takes a toll on the body. And so it's important to take care of yourself. And something I know that was hard for me all these years is to learn not to let pride stand in my way, to be willing to try something new, to ask for help, very difficult, but totally worth it. And another thing that I struggled with through the years is I'm not currently on constant oxygen, but I had been for about 6 years. And I didn't want the oxygen in all of the photos. And, but I wanted to be in the photos. And so that was another pride thing I had to deal with to make planning trips go better. Where there's a will, there's a way. All it takes is creativity and prior planning. So for researching your destination and your route, we've already talked a little bit about elevation. As I've progressed through my PH journey, like the rest of you, I've had days, weeks, months, years, seasons where I feel healthier or I feel sicker, where I can do more or I can do less, where medication is starting to help or it's not helping as much as it used to. PH isn't stagnant, right? How we feel just keeps changing throughout life. So because of that, the elevation that I can handle, I have found has changed. It's not always the same. The first thing I have learned for me to do when deciding where to go on a trip is finding out the elevation of the place I'm going to. So for example, I live in central Pennsylvania at the moment, and the elevation of my house is 663 feet above sea level. Most towns, you can do a Google search and just type in New York City elevation, and Google will tell you the elevation of it. And I have found that for me at the moment, I can handle breathing if I give myself time to acclimate up to about 4,000 feet in elevation. 5,000, 6,000, I really don't feel well, but I can't go from where I am now straight to 5,000 feet. I need to go incrementally. And so I am not able to fly to a place that's 5,000 feet in elevation. I'll land and just pass out on the spot. Like my body won't be able to adjust. But if I do a road trip that's going slightly higher, and I make sure that I stop in the places that are higher elevation, for me, every 1,000 feet, it helps me to stop and give my body a day to acclimate. Then I can do better at higher elevations. This is how I can push my elevation a little better. Another thing to research is the weather. With PH, the idea of hot, humid Florida in the summertime is not so appealing because we've all learned that heat and humidity and cold all make it more difficult to breathe. The humidity and the barometric pressure changes, like the barometric pressure drops right before it rains. And that pressure drop puts more pressure on our bodies, on our lungs, and it's physically harder for our lungs to inflate. And so that's why we get tireder during those times. So for example, the Pacific Northwest has a legitimate rainy season where 3 months out of the year, it's raining almost every day. So that is not the time of year I would choose to visit Seattle, for example. So researching the weather where you're wanting to go is also helpful. Something else to research is activities you are physically able to do. When I go on a trip with my family, I want to make memories. The photo taken on this slide was in the Badlands, South Dakota, on our way to Mount Rushmore. Our older son there, Alex, requested to see Mount Rushmore. And so we did a 2.5 week road trip, or 2-week road trip, maybe it was, from Pennsylvania all the way through and back. I think we covered 18 states. But I learned that I need to counter days that take more physical activity with days that have less physical activity so my body can recoup. So the day before this, I don't remember at the moment where we were, but we visited a zoo. And for part of it, I did some walking. And for part of it, they pushed me in a wheelchair. But then on this day, we drove further west. And on this day, we toured the Badlands, which was a car tour. So all I had to do was step outside of the car, stand up, smile, get a picture, and get back in the car. Sometimes it takes creativity to find things that we're able to do, either with how sick we are or with where our body decides it wants to be that particular day. Almost all museums, for example, have free wheelchairs that you can rent. If you go to the information desk, you just give them your driver's license or ID, and there's a wheelchair you can rent for free. You just bring back the wheelchair, you get your ID back, and you can go. That's one way to do activity that otherwise might be prohibitive for you. Many places, the wheelchairs that they even have motorized ones available. So there's always important to look for activities you're able to do, spend some time researching, and figure out how to make it work for you. Something else to research, you might want to research, and your destination en route. As Carmen mentioned, the local PH centers, hospital, or doctor, should something happen, right? Carmen mentioned that in Puerto Rico, there aren't options. And so this is something that she has considered in the concept of traveling there. But with all of us, or at least most of us with PH, something could go wrong. It's more likely if, we're on the IV meds. I'm on sub-Q Remodulin at the moment, but I have been on Flolan and Remodulin and IV Remodulin. And to have an idea ahead of time, should something happen, should my line pull out, should, a crisis of some sort happen, where do I go? In the midst of the stress of the moment, you can find somewhere to go, but if you know ahead of time, that really helps. But how do you find places ahead of time? There's a couple ways. One is if you're on social media, for example, on Facebook, there's a number of Facebook groups. Various times, I'm a member of several. Various times before traveling, I've put a little thing out there. Hey, is there anyone here who lives in South Dakota? And someone will answer like, oh, hey, Carrie, awesome. I'm considering a trip to your state. I was curious, where do you go for care? And so that's one way that I have found suggestions of places to go. Another option is to the PHA website, pha.org, I believe it is. They have a list of PH accredited care centers that you can go there, and that the places that are listed there really know PH. Because as most of us by this point have learned, there's a difference between having heard of PH, knowing PH, and really knowing PH, right? In an emergency, you prefer the specialist, the one who treats this day in and day out. Well, those people will be listed on that website. So that's another amazing resource. You also could ask your doctor if he happens to know of anyone, or your doctor's nurse happens to know of anyone in that area. There's so much networking that goes on in the medical community. They might have someone to recommend. So this is something to research before doing a trip. And in regards to other local PHers, I mentioned already how I reached out and I got to know Carrie before my trip to South Dakota. But another useful thing for knowing local PHers, I used to live in Pittsburgh, and because that's where my doctors are, and I was sicker at that point, and so I moved closer to my doctors. And at one point, I was at a PH event in the tri-state area there. And I did not have my PH meds with me because it was just for the evening. And well, honestly, I had gotten lazy. I didn't take them, but I had a sight issue. And so I was able to reach out. One of the other girls there happened to have PH, and she had her meds, and she was able to pinch hit and get me what I needed until I got home because she had it in her car. And so that's another reason for finding other local PHers where you're going, in case there's a, oops, I thought I had this, but I forgot. Legally, we're not allowed to share medication with people. But if I need a syringe, a tubing or a tape or dressing or things like that, this is an amazing resource to know other PHers in the area. All right, as for medication and supplies, the military has a saying, 2 is 1, 1 is none. So when traveling, it is really, really important to take double the amount of medication and supplies you need. You never know what might happen. I was at a hotel once and I wasn't feeling well. My hands were kind of shaky and, excuse me, I dropped part of my pill bottle down the hotel drain. Well, if I didn't have extra pills with me, what in the world was I going to do? If I had just counted out how many days I needed, that would have been a much bigger issue for me than it was because I had extra. Or there's times where, for those of us on IV meds, where you've just gotten a bad batch of something. The dressing doesn't work quite right, or the syringe is just, it doesn't connect quite right because it was a bad batch and that's what you had on you. And usually it's just like 1 or 2 in the set that we'll receive from the pharmacy, right? But if you have extra supplies on you, then it's not an issue. You have something else you can use and you're okay. So before my very first trip, when I talked to my specialty pharmacy about going, what they told me is always take double the amount of medication and supplies. If you're going internationally, take triple the amount. If you don't have quite enough medication to get you over the hump, it's a longer trip. Sometimes a specialty pharmacy can rearrange when your shipment gets sent to you and give you a little extra buffer before you go. So reach out to your pharmacy and ask them. If you are flying, especially internationally, but if you're flying in general, it's important to have your medicines in the original bottles. I've only been asked once at an airport about it. But in general, many of us, myself included, keep our pills in the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday thing, right? But when traveling, I've learned if I'm flying, I will take the original bottles and my Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Then once I get to the hotel room, the first place, or to my friend's house that I'm staying at the first night, then I'll fill my weekly container. That way there's no question about what medication, what pills you're taking. It's also super important to keep your supplies with you at all times. It would be horrible to be, for example, at a concert or at the zoo with my children, or even at the grocery store sometimes, right, when we're tired, and have an issue with your IV, your Hickman IV, and you don't have anything to deal with it. When you're traveling and you're in new environment and you're not sure about your surroundings, not having your things with you during a hiccup just adds one more layer to the stress. And so it's an important thing to have with you. To also need to pay attention to their temperature. The medications, if you're going, for example, in summertime, like we all know how cars and children can, oh, excuse me. I just realized my husband's gonna be late to pick up my kids. I had to text him.
Juliet, this is Sue. One of the other things
Yes.
I found with the medication when traveling, when I went to international, luckily somebody had told me this ahead of time, and I had the formal prescription name as well as what we know it as, because in other countries, they don't necessarily call it the same thing we do in the US.
Oh, that's wonderful for mentioning that. Thank you so much, Sue. I will add that comment to my slide deck.
And I actually had to use it that way, and luckily they knew the Latin name. They didn't know what I was talking about otherwise. And I had my list.
That is awesome. Yes, a second example for that, my in-laws, my father-in-law died of dementia this past year, but they were in France and he had Parkinson's and didn't have enough medication. But because they had the actual name of French pharmacy, was able to look it up. Excellent point. Thank you for sharing that, Sue. Yes. So we need to pay attention to their temperature. We all know that like dogs and children can die in a hot car. Well, medications can only handle so much heat as well, especially the liquid ones. It can change them chemically. And so pay attention to their temperature, or in the inverse, you don't want them to freeze. And so that's something to pay attention to. If an issue does come up while on your trip, call your specialty pharmacy immediately. They can deliver things to your hotel or to the home where you're staying. I have had that happen on more than one occasion. Even with how much prior planning I've done, something happened and they were able to, each of those times, it was overnighted to me. It was there by morning. Internationally, that's a much trickier thing for the specialty pharmacy to get it to you, right? And that's part of the why you take triple what you need internationally. Two other items are the importance of having a medical alert bracelet or a necklace saying it, especially for some of us on our medications. With our medications, we're not allowed, how do you say it? NSAIDs, NSAIDs. We're not allowed to take those. It's like if you have a heart attack, that's something that's automatically given. But so having that on a medical alert bracelet and your name, doctor's name, phone number, your disease title name is also helpful to have on it. At times when I was on, especially on the IV meds that went into my heart, I also had signs on my pump. I happen to have a Credo, but they have a sticker on their pump saying, don't turn off, call us, whatever. But I put my own sign on it, like, do not stop, will kill me. And that way, just in case, I don't know, heaven forbid, we're in a car accident or something, there's someone that knows at least don't mess with that, right? But also on phones these days, there's something, a health app that's on smartphones. And you can plug the basic information in there that you need as well. And so this could help an EMS person, or in the stress of the moment, you can't remember everything altogether. I don't remember what's my dosage. I can't remember because, you know, the adrenaline's kicked in or your oxygen's starting to drop, right? Either reason, it can be harder to remember things. So that's a great place to put your information so it can be found. I also happen to write everything out, all my medications, all my doses, my doctor's name, contact info, all of that. And I have it printed on a piece of paper in my bag that I carry with me with all my pH items. My pH bag, I should have brought it here, I didn't, happens to be a zebra bag. So pH, you know, we're zebras, right? And so my kids always know, grab the zebra bag. And all of that is in there so that I don't need to fumble and wonder and try to remember. It helps in case of an issue. All right, moving on, hotels. So there are things that may be more or less helpful when we go to hotels, depending on all of our other underlying issues. It helps to communicate ahead of time with a hotel you're going to. The last trip my family took, I booked my hotels online, and this was the first time that I had noticed there was a box for me to write notes to the concierge check-in person. And so I did this time, and it really helped. For example, for me personally, I can't sleep flat. I have to sleep at an angle. It helps with my oxygen. And so I asked for extra pillows. And so they knew that ahead of time. It wasn't just I'm being high maintenance when I show up. I need extra pillows to help me sleep, to breathe. Or I've also written in there that oxygen will be delivered by my oxygen company. I've either written that when I book the hotel online, or I will call the hotel if I book it otherwise, so that they know to expect it. And otherwise, my oxygen company has said they've had people, hotels turn away the oxygen because they didn't know that it was being delivered. So it's important to communicate ahead of time. There are things that can make your stay easier. For example, I mentioned pillows or oxygen. Handicapped rooms exist in most hotels these days. A handicapped room will have a doorbell rather than knocking, and so a light flashes for people who are hard of hearing. They also will have a walk-in shower rather than a bathtub. And so if stepping over the bathtub lip is difficult for us, then this is something we may wish to request. Sometimes handicap rooms are a bit bigger, not always. And usually they happen to be quieter. At least in my experience, it seems like the times that I've used one, it's less likely to have people on either side of me. And so when I'm getting up all hours of the night, I do my Lasix in the middle of the night while we're traveling. At least I'm not hearing racket beside me. When I was on Flowland, that was the IV med that needs ice packs with it at all time to keep it cold. I was able to get a free mini fridge in every hotel we stayed at except one, complimentary for me to keep my ice packs cold. Many hotel rooms, they're standard nowadays. They weren't when I was first diagnosed. But even the ones that didn't have them, when I mentioned I needed somewhere for medical purposes, they always gave me one for free, complimentary. It was in the room. And so that wasn't an added expense or added hassle for me. One place did say they didn't have any on hand. And so they offered to put my ice packs in the fridge that their employees use. And then I could come at any time, night or day, to the desk and get them. So they were still accommodating. I already mentioned oxygen being delivered or picked up. It's important to let the hotel know that again ahead of time. Something that I have found works wonders. The whole saying of you catch more bees with honey than with vinegar. Be polite and just ask. So this photo was from a trip my husband and I took to Venice. It was just the two of us, no children on that trip. He was sent to Europe for work and I was allowed to accompany him. We just paid for a little bit extra for some things, but it was awesome. So this is a hotel we stayed at in Venice, right beside the Rialto Bridge. It's called the Hotel Rialto. It's that red building and the two buildings to the right. They look like they're separate buildings, but they're actually all connected. And at this particular hotel, you can see where the words Hotel Rialto is. Right below that is the third floor of the hotel, right? The bottom row that has the awning in the first two floors. In this hotel, only those 3 floors had an elevator. And only those 3 floors had their own bathroom because Europe is often different. Everywhere else, you had to walk upstairs, wind through corridors, and there were a couple restrooms or showers and everything scattered throughout the floors. Well, with me doing Lasix in the middle of the night, I did not want to be in desperate need and find that someone else was already using the bathroom. And with how tired I get traveling, I didn't want to have to walk 5 flights of stairs. Even in my best years, I can't do that. So we reached out to the hotel when we booked our rooms and asked, is it possible for them to at least put us closer to where the elevators are so I don't have as much walking to do, and explain the situation. And they ended up comping us one of the expensive rooms in those floors rather than the cheaper rooms elsewhere. They comped the difference in price because of my health issues. They went above and beyond what we had asked for. But because we were polite and asked, it worked out better than we could have imagined. So it's an example of just be polite and ask. You never know. The worst that can happen is they say, no, I'm sorry. And then you're no better off, no bit worse off, right? All right, for airlines. For about half of my PH life, I have not been able to fly. I was too sick. At the moment, I can, praise God. But for finding out if you can or can't, some hospitals, some specialty hospitals, some big centers have something called a HAST, a high altitude simulation test. I have not had this done, but from my understanding of it, they put you in a glass room, we'll call it, kind of like if you're doing a pulmonary function test. And then they control the air pressure in that room while they're checking your pulse ox, your pulse, your oxygen levels, all of that. So they can simulate how you will breathe at various altitudes. So if you're wanting to fly, but you're not sure, this might be a possibility to find out. The first time I was brave enough to finally fly, I made sure I had oxygen with me, and I did end up needing it. So I was glad I had it. At the moment, I don't need oxygen on the plane, but I am also choosing not to stand up, walk around. I'm not talking, and I'm not sleeping. I am just breathing. So however we feel at any one point in our PH journey does not mean it won't change. It doesn't mean it won't improve. Even when they're in the darkest of times, right? It can still get better. So don't give up hope on flying, because you never know, especially for those of us who've had PH for long enough, new treatments come about. We never know what exciting things are just in the pipeline that might help us. If you're choosing to fly, each airline has its own rules and forms, especially regarding medications, not pills per se, but like the IV medications, taking scissors on in case, you're having an issue and you need the scissors for your medication. And in regards to oxygen. And so if you're going to fly American or Delta or United or Southwest or whatever it happens to be, you need to go to their website and look up their policies. Almost all of them have their own form that you need to print out and have your doctor fill out and submit before your flight, not the day of. They have to have it ahead of time. You also take a copy of it with you. On our trip to Europe, we ended up taking more than one airline company. So from here to, I forget where it was, JFK or something, was one airline company. And then it was a European company, and then a second European company to get to our final destination. So I ended up having 3 sets of forms that I had to print, and all of them had their own regulations, how to upload them, how to do whatever. It's doable. It's very, very doable. Just, it's not a last minute thing. So just look ahead of time and it will work. Something that's pretty standard across the board is that if you're going to use oxygen on a plane, you have to bring your own portable concentrator, right? But they require you to have 1.5 battery times for the length of your flights. So if I'm doing a direct flight from me to, let's say, San Diego, it's, I have no idea, let's say 4-hour flight. If I'm going to use oxygen on the flight, I must have 6 hours worth of batteries with me, because you never know when weather will happen, or you'll be stuck on the tarmac, or have to circle or divert or something like that. This is absolutely non-negotiable. I have never pushed the limit on this. I was told that if you do use oxygen, you don't have enough with you, you're not following their guidelines, they are allowed to put you on a no-fly list. So this is really something they take seriously. They really don't want something bad to happen to us on a plane. When you are going to an airport to get through security, You'll need a letter from your doctor talking about your need for oxygen and medication, not your pills, obviously, but for those of us on IV and I believe inhaled medications as well. Your doctors have a standard form they have saved on their computer. They just plug in your name. They also, your doctors want to know your day you're leaving and coming back. Your doctors will also request you to tell them which airlines you're using, so they can include that in the letter, because some airlines are more or less finicky when it comes to their name wasn't on the letter. So I have gotten this each time for each of my trips when I am walking through security. I do have a portable oxygen machine. I have that out ready to go, not turned on, just out ready to go, like you would pull out your laptop. It's electronic. I have it out ready to go. I also have my my IV supplies out and separate so they can see these are syringes, these are, I have scissors for mine, and they can have it all together. And I have my letter in my hand, plus what my boarding pass, my phone, however they do that these days. I always offer it. There have only been a handful of times that they've cared or looked. Only once have they ever been a little pushy on it, a little grumpy, I think is the right phrase. And that happened to be in France at that particular airport. But everywhere else was bent over backwards, willing to help. They just wanted to see the letter, or, oh, you have it, that's fine. Most places didn't even look, but you have to have one. When I have gone internationally, just in case, I also requested a letter from my specialty pharmacy. But in my mind, it was a whole 2 is 1, 1 is none. And so this would be a great place, as Sue mentioned, to have the actual prescription name and the brand name, right? So Remodulin, treprostinil have both listed. Be a great place to have this. Always keep your medicines and your supplies with you. They never go in checked baggage, even if you're not using it on the flight. I mean, so often baggage can get lost, right? We don't want that. That's not the way we want to start a trip that are tiring and stressful enough anyway. So always keep it with you. When on a plane, you're allowed, it depends what type of ticket you buy, right? But generally it's 1 carry-on and 1 backpack or purse, or a computer bag, I guess is the third option. You're allowed 2 of them. I learned recently that medical supplies count as their own category. So if you have an oxygen machine, that's a third item you're allowed to take. And if you have a bag of medications, mine isn't that huge, but it is allowed to be a separate item beyond your 1 or 2 carry-ons that the airline allows, because this is what Americans Against Disabilities Act or something. I mean, the ADA Act, or it's one of those where your medications does not have to count against you in terms of space. It's important to give yourself extra time when you're at the airport. Most of us struggle walking from here to there, right? Let alone the stress of new place. Where am I getting? Where's my gate? Oh no, I have to pee again. Remodulin, tummy troubles kicked in, any of that. Give yourself extra time. So for the healthy people in America, they say arrive like 1 hour early or 2 hours early. I would so much rather sit in an airport watching people than feel like I need to rush. When I'm rushing, my pulmonary pressures go up, my breathing goes down, and I really struggle. And so give yourself plenty of time. Also, one of the biggest blessings in airports is wheelchair assist. I always put this on my ticket. You either can put it on when you're booking your ticket, or afterwards, after you book the ticket, you can call up the airline before your flight, and like right after you book it type of thing, and request this. What wheelchair assist does is when I go to check in at the first check-in place, although nowadays you don't always have to check in, right? But when I go into the airport, if I want to, I can get a wheelchair from the curb or from just inside the door all the way to the gate. It will help you. If you're in a wheelchair, you and usually 3 or 4 people with you get to cut the entire security line, because they're often the airport person is pushing you for free. A couple times they've had my husband push me. But you get to cut that line. It makes it faster. You get to go where you're going. And then they'll take you right to your gate. If it's helpful for you, they will also push your wheelchair down the gang ramp when the time comes to the airplane door. I saw one person have a wheelchair, a very tiny wheelchair, get them into the plane as well. I like my pasta. I don't think I would have personally fit on that particular wheelchair, but it was an option. And then when you get to your destination, there is a wheelchair waiting for you for them to push you to your next gate or to push you to baggage claim or whatever. And so this is the hugest blessing when we are tired, we are stressed, our bodies have fought the altitude change up and down in the plane. And I have been told more than once when I'm there that as soon as my tushy is sitting in that chair, I am the responsibility of the airline or the airport. So if it is close on time during a connection, if my tushy is in that chair, they are supposed to hold the other flight for me because I am their responsibility. And so for lots and lots of reasons, wheelchair assist is amazing. All right, oxygen supplies. I already mentioned that elevation, temperature, and humidity often affects pHers with our breathing, right? So this is something to bear in mind when planning for oxygen needs at your next destination. This is something you may wish to talk with your doctor about. For example, I don't know what your doctor will say for you. Every patient is different. But for example, at one point, I was on 2 liters of oxygen. And I went to Orlando for a PHA conference, which was hot and humid in the middle of June. But it was a lower elevation, but it was hot and humid, made breathing difficult. My doctor said that, well, if you need it, take your pulse ox, check your numbers. If you need to bump from 2, bump to 3 or 4. That's okay for you. Just make sure your numbers are in this range. So this is something to discuss with your doctor if that's something for you to think about when you're traveling, which means take your pulse ox with you, know what your numbers are. Something that I have found helps me, most overnight sleeping concentrators go up to 5 liters. I currently sleep on 10, so mine goes up to 10, but there is a time period when I tried to travel and I was on the one that only went to 5, but I needed a buffer. I needed like 6 liters perhaps, or 6.5 because the higher elevation where I was. Or I was using a portable concentrator that only went to 3 or 4, depending on the one, but I needed more oxygen than that. There's this amazing invention called an oximeter tubing. This is one that I have on hand. I can't see my picture. I hope you guys can see it. Oximeter tubing. There are 2 different types. This one happens to have a pillow with it. So it's like a big mustache here. Another one I've had in the past, the nasal cannula looks normal, but then hanging down below, like where it joins together, was like this round thing that would fill up with oxygen as well. What an oximeter does is it takes the flow and it slightly increases it, because it's not depending only on what's coming out of the machine. It holds a little bit in reserve. And so there's some sort of formula that's written somewhere on like 2 liters of oxygen plus the oximeter makes it, I don't remember the number, maybe it makes it 3.5 liters, or 5 liters plus the oximeter makes it 6 liters. And so if you need a little extra buffer for a portable or the big concentrator, this is a lifesaver. Even for those of us who are using portable oxygen, or for a while I had the green tank that you roll and they're really heavy and they had to keep refilling for me. This was able to give me a higher number than the tank was able to do. So it's something to ask your doctor about, to ask your oxygen company about, if it's something that might be helpful for you, or helpful for you at certain times, perhaps. I have seen them online for sale. This one, a PHer actually gave me after she got lung transplant. She didn't need it anymore. It's clean, not used, so I'm willing to use it. Another time I ordered it through my oxygen company. That one took a little longer to come than I would have liked, but that might have just been that particular company. But this is a useful thing for oxygen. Like I said before, a concentrator can be delivered to your hotel and picked up from it. The local branch out there, for example, have Apria. Apria has branches all over, or Lincare, or some of these other ones. They have networks like partners that can help get oxygen to where you're going. I have found, especially for Apria, that's the one I happen to know the best. The more notice I give them, it's cheaper to have it delivered. When I was first diagnosed, it was free to have it delivered and picked up. But with inflation and whatnot, that's no longer the case. Excuse me. But if I give them at least 2 weeks notice, 14 or more days notice of my trip, then it is a certain price to have it delivered and picked up. And then if I give them less time, it costs more than that. I think it's double for them. So when we go on a road trip, for example, this past summer, we flew out west and did a road trip with our children. Actually, that's a bad example. But if we get at a hotel room, then we fly, we go to the hotel room, and then we'll take that concentrator with us to each hotel on the trip, and then take it back to the same original hotel, fly out from there. And that way it's only one delivery charge. I have asked in the past, I've pulled out my girl doe eyes and asked the hotel guest check-in person to please put it in my car for me, because I could wheel it, but I couldn't pick the thing up and my husband wasn't with me. People have always been willing to help if I ask them, or to get it out as well, to get it out of my car. It's part of that pride thing, being willing to ask, finding a way or making one. For Apria, this may be true for others, it should be. I am cheap. I like spreading out my budget. And so if I pick up the oxygen at that local branch instead of them delivering it, it's free. So when I go to a new town and I'm not taking mine from here, I'm flying, or I just don't want to take it from here, I'm getting it there, then I try to arrange the times where I'm arriving and when I'm leaving so that I can pick it up at a local branch, and their hours are like 9 to 5, I think. And I can drop it off before heading to the airport. That way I'm not having to lug mine the whole way, and it doesn't cost anything. So that's something to look into. And of course, take with you the phone number of the local oxygen branch. That way, should something happen while you're there, you already have info for it. You can just call them right up. All right, so there are a couple things to coordinate with your PH doctor, your pharmacy, and your oxygen supplier. I think I've already covered all these things, but just as a recap, the earlier you let them know you're traveling and give them the information, the better, at least a month in advance if possible. Life doesn't always give us that luxury. Someone died, we had to get to a funeral, or like there's always exceptions, right? But the more notice they have, the easier it is on their end to make sure we have what we need. It's important to get an oxygen and medicine letter for the airline, a letter that has both of them. And sometimes I've also asked my pharmacy, in addition to my PH doctor, for this. Ask them how to contact them in case of emergency. This is something good to know in general for our doctors, right? If there's an emergency after hours, but it's not a go to the ER emergency, is there an on-call number? What do we do? This is a good thing to find out. And ask about possible medication oxygen adjustments. I mentioned the concept of I have been given permission to increase my oxygen under certain conditions when traveling. Another possibility is if you're at a different altitude, or it's humid, or you're eating out a lot, you might swallow a little extra. Some doctors may allow some patients to take an extra water pill, for example. But this is something you need to talk with your doctor ahead of time, rather than just assuming it, right? We always want to be careful. All right, we're getting there. Take care of you. This is my youngest, the one who you saw in that baby picture. Well, actually, it's both of them. The one who was born, he is such a ham. He still is. So take care of you. Watch your sodium and fluids the best you can. If you are on a fluid restriction, try to really keep up your fluid restriction on your trip. Watch sodium. It is so hard to watch sodium in real life, let alone while traveling. Sodium is in everything. When I was first diagnosed, I was shocked to find out that at that point, I know I haven't checked recently, in 2008, a salad at McDonald's had more sodium than their French fries. I mean, so just, you never know. So try to watch your sodium if that's an issue for you. Something I have learned through my 13 years on pH meds is that if I cut carbs that I'm eating, I swell less. And so it's not just sodium, just like if you put pasta and you cook it and you leave it in the pot, it keeps absorbing the water, right? That happens inside of us too. And so I found when I'm traveling and my sodium intake's a little higher because I'm eating out more or I'm at someone else's house and I can't control the food as much as I can at home. If I decrease my carbs, I won't swell as much as I normally would. So when I travel, I do more salads versus sandwiches or pasta or potatoes or rice, or these are all my favorite things. I'm a carb girl, but it helps. If you are on a water pill, make it a priority. Like I am right there with you ladies in the trenches. Water pills really throw a cramp in your style, right? For me on my Lasix, I have found through the years, if I take it on a completely empty stomach, that means it's been at least 5 hours since I ate anything. And then I don't eat anything until I pee the first time. My Lasix does double, triple, quadruple what it would otherwise. But then from the time I take the pill until I'm finished, all those bathroom trips is 5 hours for me. So if we are on a vacation, we're on a trip and we're wanting to go to X, Y, and Z, I can't always find a bathroom every 15 minutes while we're out and about. So for me, the way it works for me the best is I will do Lasix early in the morning to get it finished before we leave the hotel or the house. So if we're planning on leaving the hotel at like 8 a.m., I will take Lasix no later than 3 a.m. So I will have it beside me, beside my bed with a drink ready to go and my alarm set. And I'll wake up, I'll swallow the pills, I'll go back to sleep until I wake up and start peeing. Sometimes I'll pee and go back to sleep, pee and go back to sleep, pee and go back to sleep. Sometimes I'm just up. I actually do that a lot with my normal life. I've got 2 boys, they're now 13 and 16. I can't always just stay home. And so it's something that's helpful for me for Lasix. But when you're traveling, make it a priority. When we swell, we breathe less well, and the trip is a whole lot less enjoyable when you can't breathe. If you're going up an elevation, schedule the first day or two to be slow days while your body acclimates. I commented already how for me traveling west, I found that or south, I guess, there's some mountains on the East Coast too, that every 1,000 feet, my body needs to readjust, it needs to acclimate. So give yourself a slow first day or two, especially if you're flying, your body's dealing with all of the altitude changes. Try not to land and have to hit the ground running. It'll be so much more difficult. So if you're going somewhere, for example, to a wedding, a family wedding that's out of town and it's a different elevation, or even if it's not a different elevation, see if you can get there a day early. That way your body can rest from just the stress and the energy exertion of traveling. And then make sure to schedule downtime. You know your body well. There's this amazing story called the spoon theory. If you haven't heard it, look it up. It explains so well how we only have so many spoons a day of energy. And for example, taking a shower takes so many spoons, and going to the doctor takes so many spoons, and vacuuming, well, I can't vacuum. Getting groceries takes so many spoons. But you have to pick and choose what your spoons are used for. And if you use too many spoons, then you're pulling from tomorrow's spoons and you're more tired. So schedule downtime while you're gone. Don't just be going. Your body needs the rest. Listen to your body. All right. Don't let pride stand in your way. Be polite and just ask. This is my last big story, I think. And the lesson that's taken me personally the longest to learn. I am a very independent person, and I was 24 when I got sick, 28 when I was diagnosed. And it's hard for all of us to slow down, right? And not be able to do what we think we should be able to do. But this picture was taken in Cannes on that trip where my husband was sent to Europe. And for this particular day, the company had given us a bus tour of Cannes. A bus took us to Cannes, and then we had a tour guide for the day. And obviously this is pre-COVID, right? And we got off the bus down on the bottom, down by those boats. There's a road, his body is just blocking it, but there's a road down there at sea level. And that's where the bus got off. And we got off, and the lady with her amazing French accent was talking all amazing things we're going to see in Cannes. And she pointed to that hill way up there. And she said, we're going to start up there and we're going to X, Y, and Z. And like I had got tunnel hearing where I could no longer hear anything she said, right? I looked up at the hill and I'm like, I cannot walk that hill. And then this sinking feeling, and my face began to get red because I'm upset, not angry, but I didn't want to slow down the tour because I couldn't walk that hill. And I felt badly because I didn't want my husband to miss out on this experience just because of me. And how do I say this to her? And I was quietly getting worked up inside. And so after she explained and we started to walk that way, my husband and I pulled her to the side and explained, I have lung issues. I cannot walk that hill, and asked where in town she will go next after the hill. And then we will just go there, sit and wait, or stand and wait for them to come back. And like we tried to be polite. It's not asking for accommodations or anything, but she totally surprised us. She's like, no, let's just try. And she commented that there's two ways to make it up at that hill. One way, the usual way, is like terrifying. And one is a slower meandering through the town, through the streets to get up there. She's like, let's just go up that way. And so we reluctantly agreed to try. And so she went, and then as she's talking about this building and that building, and I don't know where she's coming up with this information. Half of it was probably wrong, right? She was just saying things that sounded good. But she would stop and turn. And when we had gotten to the back of the row, back of the group, she would pause and discuss this beautiful architecture beside us, or look at that window, or this mailbox. This is classic French mailbox. I mean, anything she found, until we caught up. And I caught my breath, and then Aaron would shake his head, nod to her, and we would progress. And so this is how we meandered to the top of the hill. No one else was any the wiser. They still got their tour, and I was able to make it to the top of the hill. So the smile on my face is partly because we made it to this European trip, and partly because I made it up that blasted hill. And so you never know what blessings will be out there. But be polite and just admit what you can and can't do. There is absolutely no shame in it. None of us did anything to cause PH, right? It is just our life. And so buck up and just do what you can. Ask for help when you need to. So don't give up hope. Be creative and find a way. It is totally worth the effort. This is a picture I have hanging in my husband's office. He works from home when he's not traveling for work. And these are all the trips we have taken with our boys since they were born. It was our goal that they would get to all 50 states before they graduate high school. And so originally, when I was diagnosed, I couldn't walk 10 feet. And we have found a way to make it work. You know, the first trip we did was actually in our same town to an activity there. And that was where we first learned that you can rent a wheelchair for free with an ID. And so just do baby steps, find a way to do what you want in life. For this image, the blue straight lines are flights, and then the black are where we drove. Since this, we did finish this summer, the last of the lower 48 states. So we flew into Vegas, did Arizona, New Mexico. Vegas is obviously Nevada and California. So our boys at 13 and 16 have now completed the lower 48, and we are officially broke. And I'm not sure how we can pay for Alaska and Hawaii, but it's possible. Start small, start with what you have, find a way or make one. Okay, so that is what I have for the presentation part of this. I know it was a lot of information, but are there any questions any of you have?
Yes, I would like to know, can you email us the slides? It was great information.
Oh, absolutely. I would be happy to.
Yeah, I didn't want to get up and take notes, so I thought I would just ask you at the end. But I would like to remember some of the things you said.
Yeah.
Since you all registered for this, I can ask the people at Team PH to forward these slides to everyone who registered.
That would be wonderful. Thank you. It was a great presentation. I learned a lot. I feel a little bit better now about traveling.
Well, it's possible. It just takes courage.
And congratulations, Julia. That presentation, more effective than mine. I hope to hear. So I feel right now more confident to do my trips. So thank you. It's a good idea if you can share the live for us. Very useful.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
I am so impressed with, you know what, my big question was, how do you work the diuretics? And I mean, like I go around town and I don't take them at all because I'm worried about the bathroom. But the way you explained it, you know, you take them that early in the morning, you give yourself 5 hours. Because if I think about it, yeah, it's about 5 hours of going to the bathroom once you take them.
That's
right?
it.
It's
Yes.
about 5 hours. So that was unbelievable.
And so a lot of these things are true for everyday life, right? Like I mentioned, the local place, I found a wheelchair for me, or how to do diuretics. Like I won't go grocery shopping while I'm waiting for that to kick in because I don't want to keep going into the bathroom the whole time at the grocery store.
Yeah.
And so it's about life with PH is about finding a way to make it work for you, right? It might look different than it used to, but we have to keep living. We have to find a way to make it work.
True.
Also, too, I like the idea about keeping the pills in the original bottle. I know that we all tend to keep that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday thing, which is great, but we still do need to keep the pills in the original bottle because, quite frankly, if something happened to us, we know what's under Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but nobody else does. And if you take, like, there was a time when I used to take nitroglycerin. Nobody would know where the nitroglycerin was underneath that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday thing. So yeah, we definitely have to keep that original bottle.
Yeah.
I don't separate my pills anymore. I just keep them in the bottle. Because something happened, everybody knows, okay, this is for this is for, and I write on the label, this is for this is for that, this is for this.
I think it depends on how many pills you're taking, what works for you.
Yeah.
Or how frequently, right?
Yes.
And like you, Julia, I keep a list of my medications, but I also have what they're for, when, who's prescribed them, and when I started taking or stopped taking them, when I moved them off the list. But that list, one of the things I got, because I do still like to travel and I do it by car at this point, but you gave me a lot of hope that I could get back to flying someday. But
you never know.
I got from Medical Alert the red band that has the Medical Alert on it, and it attaches with Velcro to your seatbelt. And so if you're ever in an accident, it's right there. And in there, I also keep a list of my medications, diagnoses, and doctors.
Can you say that again?
I didn't know those existed.
I got it through Medical Alert, and it's a red, and it's Velcro, so it fits right around your seatbelt. So I have in there, I slid in there the information. So at any time, God forbid I'm in a car accident and the paramedics come, I mean, it's pretty hard not to see this bright red thing across your seatbelt. So, and when I'm going to be traveling or something, I pulled that off and put it in my bag. So that also gives them a real quick, oh, there must be something in here, because everybody knows the medic alert symbol. I don't care, even internationally, they know it. So I found that to be very, very useful.
It's an awesome tip. Thank you so much for sharing that, Sue. I didn't know they existed. That's awesome.
Yeah, every once in a while I go through a drive-through or something and somebody will say, where did you get that?
What is it called again?
It's from Medical Alert.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know what the name of it is. It's for putting on your seatbelt, and it's a Velcro strap. And inside it's a three-way, so it folds over. On the top part, it has the Medical Alert symbol. It says Medical Alert. And then the two back sides are where the Velcro works. But inside there is a little pocket. So I keep in that little pocket my list of medications, my list of diagnoses, and my list of doctors.
I just pulled up a Google search for it. There's so many choices of them. I didn't know they had it. Here's an example. This one says type 1 diabetic, insulin dependent.
Look at this.
Yeah, and the one I
so-
have is just red and just says Medical Alert, because I didn't want it to be.
Like
That's
here's one,
specific I have.
rescue
Yes,
facts
that's it.
inside.
That looks like it.
It says
That's more like
rescue
what mine
facts.
is.
Try to get that less glare.
Yeah.
Rescue.
Or one here says deaf. Oh, here's one that says emergency medical info is contained inside this cover.
Ah,
So I get rid of the
Yeah.
glare.
who knew?
That is
Well, except for
awesome.
Sue.
That's what these groups, I have learned more stuff. And I'll tell you, I've been answering on the PH support line, and I thought I had learned a lot over the years. Looking stuff up for people, it's endless what we can learn about this disease.
It is.
And
it
the
truly
things
is.
that are out there for us. I'm just so grateful. I know it sounds funny, but I am grateful that I had this, because it has opened up worlds to me and understanding that just would not have come otherwise.
Interesting. Interesting.
Now, I still get mad about it every once in a while that I have it. And go,
Well, we all do,
"Just a
right?
pain in the butt."
I think it's okay to occasionally stomp our feet and have a good cry, but then we need to straighten our crown and keep going.
Yeah.
Just need to not stay in that place. You had mentioned, Sue, about the taking your list of medications. Something I do not have on my list that I need to put on it is how often I take that pill.
Oh, I
Right?
have that
Morning,
too.
night. I don't happen to have that, and I should. So you mentioned about bringing the list, and that reminded me, we are often told to bring our list to doctors, right? To let them know. Every single time I'm hospitalized, I guess that's technically taking a trip, right? I take my medicine bag with all of my pills and supplies.
Yeah.
Because I've lost count of the number of times where I am waiting for whatever it is. And like, well, the pharmacy this, the pharmacy that, we're waiting. And I think I've always asked permission from the nurse, but I've asked, can I take my pill and then you return it to me? Because taking it like 6 hours later sometimes really makes a huge difference, right? And so if I have it there as an option, it really helps. We have to make sure that we're respectful and just not take it on our own, because that can cause issues. But I always take the medication bag and my mixing supplies for my IV with me to the hospital.
Well,
Some
and the other thing
hospitals, I
to
won't
check
even
with-
let them mix.
Right. I was gonna say, your local hospital will tell you, like mine in Colorado, when I was still, you could take it and they would dispense to you from yours, and then you didn't pay that medicine charge.
Right.
Well, that's
Ridiculous. You know, you pay $20 for them to give you a pill at the hospital, and you pay less than that for 3 months supply otherwise. Now, some hospitals will do it and some won't. But that would be another thing to check, is if your hospital allows you to do that. Because that was a huge savings when they started doing that.
I think it's also important too, that when you are traveling, if you are traveling with someone, make sure they know where everything is. I've seen a situation where someone said, when someone had an episode and they asked the companion, well, what's going on? I don't know. They didn't tell me. We don't talk about it. Da, da, da. Make sure that somebody who you're traveling with knows your situation.
Well, and I don't know if anybody else has a DNR.
Yeah,
But
that's
I
a
don't-
very good
I don't
point.
leave home without it. Because I'm not taking a chance on, you know, my medical power of attorney person may be in the car with me and can't speak. So some of that stuff
Very true.
I have in there with my medical information.
Yeah, it seems like sometimes we're overcompensating, but we truly are not. We truly are not.
I wanted to ask about a practical thing, just trying to figure out if you are, let's say you're taking a trip to Japan. It's a long trip. So how would you do this with batteries and with stops? I mean, because that's like, the batteries weigh so much. So, you know, I guess you have to figure first where you'd stop. Maybe you have to stop 3 places along the way in order to get there. And then you have
With
to
enough
have,
time for the batteries to recharge, right?
do they charge on a plane?
I don't know. Planes now have plugs. I'm not sure if we're allowed to charge. I honestly don't know.
I can tell you from my trip to the Canary Islands before they grounded me, I had a separate bag, one of those lightweight suitcases that had all of my medical supplies in, because that is considered separate and it was a carry-on size. I had all my extra batteries and all the chargers. And when I would get to an airport, because I had like 3 transfers, it was a 36-hour travel time. And every time we'd stop at an airport, I'd plug in to every outlet they had available and charge them. But I also had gotten, and I didn't even know that this was available till I was researching, there's actually a separate battery support. So where I knew I was going to be doing a very long travel, you can actually plug in your devices. So you're not even using plain power. It is a separate battery that you plug into. So I could plug in my CPAP machine and my oxygen into those outlets.
Wow.
And it sat underneath my seat. So there is stuff that's available. We just.
Where do you
and one of
find
the
this
best-
out?
It was actually the company I was working with. And they were out of Minnesota. I'd have to look up their name. I don't remember them now. But it was a supply company for oxygen and portable concentrators and that. They had anything and everything you would need to travel. And they're the ones that told me about it. He said, you know, we've got this too. Now, a lot of this stuff, as we've all learned, is not cheap and it's not always covered by Medicare or Medicaid or our supplementals. We do pay for some of that ourselves. But, you know, you got to, for me, it was like, do I want to worry about running out of oxygen somewhere along the way? No. And like I said, I just came back from Branson, Missouri, and the bus we were on had outlets, so I could just plug in my portable concentrator on there. So I didn't have to even change out the batteries on the bus. I would just unplug it and take it in when we go in someplace and get back on the bus and plug it back in to recharge it again. But some of the planes do have chargers, some of them don't. And if you're going to be doing a really long trip like Japan, like you said, or Australia or New Zealand, where you're going to be on there a long time, it's worth looking into. And today it probably would be something that's much smaller, lighter weight, even more affordable than when I had gotten it, because that's got to be, well, I've been here 3 years. I'll bet you it's 8 years since I did that trip.
it's amazing how much comes available because of non-pH reasons, right? Like plugs, for example, on planes or them being everywhere in airports has nothing to do with oxygen. Just
Yeah.
because everyone wants to charge their phone. And so it's like, woohoo, I'll use that too. Thank you.
Well, and I've learned to carry, because I have so much stuff between all my machines. I carry my little power strip. So I don't even take up all their outlets anymore. I use one and plug in all my stuff.
Oh,
So
that's
nobody at the airport can complain about me hogging all the plugs.
awesome. That's awesome. Anyone else have any other questions or things that stood out to them?
I must say your presentation was excellent and very thorough.
Yep.
And really, after this, there's nothing really to say. You said it all, and you've been most helpful.
Thank you.
I really appreciated this presentation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, this
It
is
gave
where
me
I
a lot
said,
of hope.
I told y'all, I told you, I said it in the beginning, I did say it. She's phenomenal, I said it.
Thank you, Dini. Thank you so
Excellent.
much. It was so wonderful. She
It
made you got
was.
like she make your heart feel calm. You know that you could go places and do things and you don't have nothing to worry about. Just trust what she said, cause it is
Yes.
so beautiful. She made me feel so great, so good. I thank you. I thank you. God bless
Yes.
you.
Yes.
Yes, you covered every single thing, including the
Yes, she
bathroom.
did. Yes, she did.
Well,
Some of these principles aren't just for big trips though, right? They're for around town.
Right.
It's
Yes.
the same
Exactly.
concepts.
yeah.
pH takes so much away from us, right? It takes our breath literally away. It takes away our breath. But we have to fight to keep whatever life we can, even if it looks different. And so it's about finding a way to do what's most important to us in life. To me, that's traveling. Traveling is really important to me. Or it might be about finding a way to still, I don't know, do gardening. If gardening is what's important to you, to planting some flowers. Well, maybe you can't bend down your hands and knees and get out there, but maybe you can do it in a pot instead. I mean, you have to find ways to do what's important to us in life.
I
Because
do have another question.
Yes.
Has anybody experienced cruising? Because I would think that would be an issue. You're in the middle of nowhere. Besides having extra batteries, is that an issue for anybody?
I have cruised many cruises prior to being grounded. And actually cruising is the easiest
I think
because
so.
the oxygen companies, and there are again, companies that'll deliver everything from hospital beds to oxygen to mobility chairs, anything and everything you need for on a cruise, and they will have it at the ship. Again, you have to look at that cruise
I
line.
didn't know that. They'll deliver oxygen
Oh,
to the
absolutely.
ship?
Yep.
Oh, that's
Wow.
wonderful. I had no idea.
Now,
Because I've been
that's-
wanting to go on a cruise, but I'm afraid that, what if my oxygen, my machine dies, my concentrator, that I carry with me?
yeah, but
That
like
is-
Julia said, it's the planning ahead of time because they need a lot of time. And you need to, sometimes the cruise ship will take care of, you notify them and they'll get all the supplies. Sometimes they'll give you the name of carrier. But one thing you've got to know and do all that planning all the way through, because in one trip, we were going to be stopping in Greece and they would not do oxygen delivery to a ship in Greece.
Okay.
So I had to know how to arrange for around that period of time.
Right.
Because, and thankfully what we were able to do is I was able to get a portable concentrator and I had like 6 extra batteries and chargers. So I didn't have to deal with the tanks at that point. So I didn't have to, worry about them delivering tanks. But it was the only spot along the way on that cruise that they would not deliver.
That's great. I had no idea. I'm going to definitely look into that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I've also wanted to cruise and not tried it yet. May I ask, Sue, where do you plug in your machine in the cruise ship? Like
Oh,
it
in the
gets
room.
really hot and loud.
No,
So,
well,
like,
in
where
your
do you put
room,
it?
And even on the decks on a lot of the ships, they'll have outlets where you can plug in.
Wow.
But I had just plugged in my room and I had outlets for my CPAP and my oxygen and my additional batteries.
Really? The
Awesome.
last
Wow.
cruise we were on was like, I think there was 2 outlets in the whole room. So you had a lot of outlets?
Well, again, you need to check with your cruise line and what rooms, because not all rooms are the same on a cruise
There you
ship.
go. There you go.
So it's asking the questions, I'm letting them know that you need handicapped services. And that they'll help you, figure out what room is best for you in that. But
Okay,
like Julia said, it's all about the planning.
planning. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Awesome. Once COVID goes away, I'm cruising. I've never done one.
Oh,
You've given me courage.
Julia, if you want to get to Alaska, cruise it. And then do the inside passage with it.
Yeah,
Best way to see Alaska. You take
Really?
the cruise up the inside passage,
Right.
and then you get off and you do the train up through the inside, up to the interior. Best way to see Alaska.
Wow.
Absolutely phenomenal.
So Doreen, you're shaking your head. Have you cruised Alaska also?
no, I haven't cruised a lot, but that particular trip is, and that's very practical, you don't have too many demands on your physical well-being at any point, so that's a good one to take. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we might do that. Might make it cheaper. We'll see. Hotels seem to be expensive in Alaska and Hawaii.
Yes, everything is expensive in both of those places. Now, I don't know if the cruise would be much cheaper in Hawaii, but it's one way to see all the islands. But that's how I saw both of those places. Because I also have done all 48, I've done all 50 states at this point.
Wow.
I would like to get to all 7 continents, but I am
Yeah,
far from that.
Yeah.
And at this point, I can't breathe in the cold of Antarctica. So we'll wait till there's a cure for pH to make that dream come true.
Antarctica also has the problem of, what do you do with oxygen? If you have to go on the water, you're gonna certainly get wet. How do you manage? I mean, those are the kinds of things that's like, you said, you have to think about where you're going, and you do, it's like that's really difficult. Some of the outer, the outer places to travel, that's, yeah.
But that is one of the reasons I'm such a cruise fanatic, is because you check into your hotel and then when you're done, you check out of it. And in between, every morning you get up and you're someplace else.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's the way.
And especially if you can get the mobility scooter to get on and off the ship, because those ships nowadays are huge. They are floating hotels.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
What a fun idea. You have inspired me. I think you inspired lots of us.
Yes,
Well,
definitely.
you inspired me and gave me a lot of hope, because
Me too.
one of the issues I'm having right now is my PBST. My SVT has been acting up more than my pH and been having episodes, and those keep kind of knocking me on my butt. But those two together, then it kicks my pH in and my breathing problem. It's like,
It's like a cycle, right?
yes,
It's the cycle.
I'm going, just take a deep breath and just breath.
Mm.
And like I said, give yourself permission to rest. That's what I still have a hard time doing.
Me too. I'm type A, go, 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 and getting sick. My goodness, that taught me to give myself grace with myself. It's difficult. There's this saying, I happen to be on Facebook. Me pull it up. There's a saying I shared this past week. I saw somewhere and it really hit home to me. Here it is. It says, I did my best today. That simple phrase has changed my life, because after a wonderful day where everything went as planned, I know I did my best. And when everything falls apart, I still know I did my best. Because doing your best isn't about productivity or success. It's about being yourself in the midst of the good and the bad, the beautiful and the stressful. There's freedom in laying down your expectations of being a perfect version of yourself or the former version of yourself. Embrace the idea there is no such thing as perfect. It's all you, and who you are is more than enough.
Wow.
Some guy named Trofer Kirby, I'm sure I messed up that name, wrote that. And that really hit home. You know,
Absolutely, absolutely. Everybody, I mean, honestly, hey, Julia, thank you. I mean, seriously, thank you. You've answered
Yes,
every
you
single
look like-
question.
yeah.
You've
Yes.
encouraged us. So, you know, I might go so doggone it. Thank you so, so, so much. And like Julia said, I'll try our best to get that, to get her briefing out, because besides the fact we saw her kids grow up in the pictures,
Yeah.
it's just a beautiful, beautiful, and so much information in one briefing. Unbelievable. Thank you so much.
all right.
I sent out in the chat, I hope you got it, my email address. If you have a question, or if you, whatever topic you want to talk about next, or whatever ideas you have, I think you all got my email address. Let me know. And this month and every month, because this is pH month. And yeah, no, we're not the same way we used to be, but even if we didn't have pH, we wouldn't be the same anyway. We'd grow older, we'd get arthritis, we whatever. Hair fall out, teeth fall out, can't see, can't hear. So celebrate every day, because you're here. And you're
Amen.
alive and you're doing, okay? So I want to say kudos and thank you so much to all of you for being here. Julia, honestly, phenomenal. Just phenomenal. And I just want to tell everybody, we'll see you again in January. We'll let you know ahead of time what's going on. Thank you for all those who participated and asked questions and made comments and statements. To appreciate that. Learned a lot. Like, I certainly didn't know about that seatbelt thing, and don't think I'm not going to get that. And so I would like to say Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy New Year. God bless you all. And
Happy
thank you all.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
There
How
we
could I
go.
forget Thanksgiving? Oh my gosh, and I have such plans.
And remember, don't let pride let you down. Be proud of yourself. Pride is a
Absolutely.
killer.
Friday's
Pride
a
is
killer.
killer.
Absolutely.
Don't
So
answer
Thank you,
everybody,
Marcel.
Yes, pride is a killer. I learned it the hard way.
me too, the first time I fell out. So
Yeah.
everybody, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Julia. That
Thank
was
you very
perfect.
much, Julia.
So
Thank you,
Yes, thank you.
Julia.
everybody be well, be blessed, take care, and see you in January.
Okay,
Bye.
happy holidays, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Hello.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Happy holiday.
All
Love
right.
you all. Love you
All
all.
right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Marcel.
Bye-bye, sweetie.
All right. I'll see you soon.
Okay, love you, darling.
All right. Love you.